When we talk about European languages, we most often mention the Germanic or Romance families, but in this video we will be exploring the Slavic language family. Slavic languages are spoken by about 200 million people worldwide. They are part of a branch of the Indo-European language family called Balto-Slavic. They branched off from Baltic languages about 1500 BCE. The language continued to develop for the next 2000 years until it formed Proto-Slavic at around the year 500 of our current era. This language would continue until the year 1000, when Slavs expanded to such an extent geographically in Europe that the language stopped being mutually intelligible. At this point, there were distinct South Slavic, West Slavic, and East Slavic languages. These form the three branches of the Slavic language family today. We will explore them one by one, starting with South Slavic. South Slavic has two distinct subgroups, Eastern and Western South Slavic. The Western group contains Slovenian and Serbo Croat, and the Eastern group contains Church Slavonic, Bulgarian, and Macedonian. Old Church Slavonic is the first Slavic literary and liturgical language. It is also the first Slavic language recorded in writing. The basis for it was the dialect used by South Slavs in the regions of Bulgaria and Macedonia. The Slavic languages were still similar enough for it to act as a bridge between the different groups. It was formalized in the 9th century by Byzantine missionaries Cyril and Methodius to help in the Christianization of the Slavs. They would also work together with Bulgarians in creating the first Slavic scripts called Glagolithic and Cyrillic. Cyrillic is still used as the main script of the Eastern Orthodox Slavs, whereas the Roman Catholic Slavs use Latin. Old Church Slavonic was later replaced by Church Slavonic as the main liturgical language of Eastern Orthodox Slavs. Bulgarian is the easternmost Slavic language of the southern branch of the family that developed from Old Church Slavonic, also known as Old Bulgarian. It is very much alive, with around 8 to 12 million speakers worldwide. The language uses the Cyrillic script for writing, but there is also a Banat Bulgarian alphabet for use in the Latin script. It is the official language in Bulgaria and the European Union, and native to large parts of southeastern Europe, from Ukraine and Moldova in the north to Greece and Turkey in the south. It's also a recognized minority language in these countries that are on the screen right now. It is part of the Balkan Sprachbund, which contributed to one of its most significant features that makes it stand out from other Slavic languages, that being the lack of cases. It is theorized that this feature was adopted from non-Slavic languages in the Sprachbund, such as Greek. Some Bulgarians would also claim that Macedonian is a dialect of Bulgarian, but Macedonians contest this, and the language is distinct enough that most people see it as a separate language. And lastly, here is an example of how to subscribe to the channel Big Picture View in Bulgarian. Church Slavonic is the modern version of Old Church Slavonic, which developed after the initial standardization of the language. Church Slavonic kept developing into a number of distinct dialects which are very similar. The language is used by Eastern Orthodox churches throughout Europe and also in their diasporas, also by Slavic Greek Catholic churches, and even sometimes by Catholic churches like in Croatia and Czechia. Church Slavonic is a language consisting of a number of dialects or recensions, which include the Russian recension, Old Moscow recension, used by Old Believers and Co-Believers, Ukrainian and Rusyn recension, which is used in both Cyrillic and Latin scripts, Serbian recension, Croatian recension, which is in limited use among Croatian Catholics and is printed in Latin and Glagolithic, Czech recension, which is also in limited use among Czech Catholics. Lastly, for the eastern branch of South Slavic languages, we come to Macedonian. Macedonian is spoken by about 2 to 2.5 million people. It is written in Cyrillic. It's native to North Macedonia and the states in its vicinity. It's the official language of North Macedonia and has minority status in all these places. Macedonian has a high degree of intelligibility with Bulgarian and varieties of Serbo Croatian. Both linguists and people from Macedonia agree that it's a separate language from Bulgarian and Serbo Croatian. Here is how a sentence like "Don't forget to like the video" would be written in Macedonian. For the first Western South Slavic language, we go to Slovene or Slovenian. Slovenian is spoken by about 2.5 million people. It uses the Latin script. It's native to Slovenia, Italy, Austria, and Hungary. It is an official language in Slovenia and the European Union, and is a recognized minority language in Austria, Hungary, and Italy. An interesting feature of Slovenian is that they count like Germans. Instead of English and most Slavic languages, where for numbers beyond 20, we say, for example, 22, Slovenes and Germans say 2 and 20, and this goes for other numbers as well. The last South Slavic language is Serbo Croatian, which, depending on who you ask, is either one diverse language or 4 separate languages. It is spoken by about 20 million people worldwide, written in a bunch of scripts, native to the area of former Yugoslavia and its surroundings. It is the official language in Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, and Kosovo, and has a minority status in North Macedonia, Italy, Hungary, Romania, Czechia, and Slovakia. It is a pluricentric language because it has 4 distinct standard forms. The main difference between the 4 is with vocabulary, as can be seen here. The West Slavic languages are split into 3 branches: Leketic, Sorbian, and Czechoslovak. Leketic is the most diverse of the West Slavic branches because it then further branches into Polabian, Pomeranian, and Old Polish. Polabian is an extinct language that was native to Eastern Germany. It has recently been revitalized to some extent, with probably more than a dozen speakers in the 21st century. The exact date of extinction of this language was 1756, with the death of Emerence Schulze. Pomeranian comes from the Slavic pomore, which means by the sea. In medieval contexts, it refers to the dialects spoken by Slavic Pomeranians. In modern contexts, it refers to a branch of Leketic languages that includes Kashubian and Slovincian. Kashubian is an endangered language native to Poland. It has around 300 to 400,000 speakers. It is recognized as an official language in certain parts of northern Poland and as a minority language in the rest of the country. It uses the Latin script for writing. It is the only remnant of the Pomeranian language. It is close to Standard Polish with influence from Low German and the extinct Polabian and Old Prussian languages. Slovincian is classified either as a language or as a dialect of Kashubian. It went extinct in the 20th century due to stigmatization from Germans. It is unclear whether Slovincians used that name to refer to themselves. Some scholars believe that they may have called themselves Lutheran Kashubians and their language Kashubian. Polish is the second or third most widely spoken Slavic language with about 50 million speakers worldwide. It uses the Latin script and is native to Central Europe. It is the official language of Poland and the EU, and a recognized minority language in Bosnia, Brazil, Czechia, Hungary, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Ukraine. It historically developed from Old Polish and Middle Polish, which is probably also the heritage of the Silesian language. For a time during the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, it became the lingua franca of much of Eastern Europe. Polish, along with other West Slavic languages, is famous for long consonant clusters, which is why you get words such as these in the language. Silesian is the other language that developed from Old Polish, but its status as a language is quite contentious. Many Silesians believe themselves to be a separate ethnicity within Poland and have tried to get their language recognized in the country. In 2024, a bill was passed to recognize it as such, but it was vetoed by the Polish president Andrzej Duda. The Silesian language is spoken by around 500,000 people. It's written in the Latin script and is native to Poland. It has a number of dialects, including the curious case of Texan Silesian. The descendants of Silesians that moved to the US in the 19th century developed their own internally consistent way of speaking. This dialect only has about 100 speakers living today though. Silesian has plenty of German loanwords which it gained from a large population of Silesian Germans that lived alongside Silesians. Sorbian is the name used collectively for two languages in Eastern Germany, that being Lower and Upper Sorbian. They are partially mutually intelligible. They are also sometimes referred to as Wendish or Lusitanian. They have about 20,000 native speakers, which makes it evident how endangered this language truly is. It uses the Latin script and is native to Eastern Germany. It is a minority language of Germany, and both Upper and Lower Sorbian are recognized as second official languages in the regions where they are spoken. Like Silesian, Sorbian also made its way to Texas and was spoken in a settlement called Serbo. Knaanic is a language which contains various Slavic dialects used by Jews east of the river Elbe, especially in the Czech lands. Most recordings we have of this language came from the Czech Republic, which is why it's associated with Old Czech. The name comes from the land of Knaan, which is a reference to the Czech lands, but sometimes also used generally for Eastern Europe. The language would later be replaced by Germanic Yiddish, which was used by Ashkenazi Jews west of the Elbe River. Czech is spoken by about 12 million people worldwide. It uses the Latin script. It's the official language of the Czech Republic and the EU. It has minority language status in all these countries. The word robot is of Czech origin, and they say ahoy for hello despite being landlocked. Czech also has more Latin and German influence than other Slavic languages because of their long history within the Holy Roman Empire. Slovak is spoken by about 7 million people in the world. It uses the Latin script, but in some cases also Cyrillic is used. It's an official language in Slovakia, the EU and the Serbian region of Vojvodina. Slovak has minority language status in all of these countries. It's similar to Czech, and the two used to be considered the same language when the two countries were united in Czechoslovakia. Here is a comparison of a sentence in Slovak with Czech to compare the similarities and differences. Now it is time to move on to the East Slavic branch, which is further split into two parts. The Old Novgorod dialect, which went extinct in the 15th century, and Old East Slavic. Old East Slavic would later develop into the Russian and Ruthenian branches, Ruthenian giving birth to Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Rusyn. The Old Novgorod dialect was used from the 11th to the 15th century. It's mostly known from birch bark writings found in northern Russia and was native to the Republic of Novgorod. Russian is the most widely spoken Slavic language, with about 250 million speakers worldwide. Native to Russia and its vicinity, it uses the Cyrillic script and is the official language of a number of states and international organizations, mostly owing to the legacy of the Soviet Union. It is also a recognized minority language in Romania, Armenia, Czechia, Slovakia, Moldova, Ukraine, and China. The Russian language was split from Ruthenian dialects after those lands joined the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Russian, on the other hand, continued to be based on Church Slavonic until the reign of Peter the Great. Here is a random sentence in Russian. Ukrainian is the most widely spoken language among the Ruthenian subgroup. It has about 51 million speakers. Its writing system is Cyrillic. It is the official language in Ukraine, Transnistria, and some Russian-occupied regions of Ukraine. It is a recognized minority language in all of these places. Due to historical circumstances, some parts of Ukraine speak a mix of Ukrainian and Russian called Surzhyk. The Ruthenian subgroup developed under the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which made these three languages absorb Polish influence to varying degrees. The most noticeable difference between Russian and Ukrainian is that in Ukrainian, the G sound shifted to a H sound. Belarusian is an interesting case. It has about 6 million speakers. It's written in the Cyrillic and Latin script. It is the official language of Belarus, the Union State, and some regions of Poland. It's also a recognized minority language in these countries, but the language has a diminished status in its own native country, where the government of Lukashenko favors Russian over its own language. Belarusian is used by only about 11% of Belarusians at home. Approximately 30% of Belarusians can write, speak, and read Belarusian, while 52% can only read and speak it. There are also no Belarusian language universities in Belarus. So Belarusian is threatened by its own government, which is tragic. There is also a mixture of Russian and Belarusian used in Belarus that's called Trasianka. Rusyn is spoken by anywhere from 100 to 600,000 people. It uses the Cyrillic and Latin scripts. It's native to Western Ukraine and Slovakia, with communities also in Poland and the Balkans. It's the official language in a province of Serbia and has minority language status in Bosnia, Croatia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, and Romania. Some Ukrainians believe that Rusyn is just a dialect of Ukrainian, but most linguists disagree. The language is sadly vulnerable because of the low official usage, low population of speakers, and lack of Rusyn language schools. The last language we will mention is Interslavic. It's a constructed pan-Slavic auxiliary language made for Slavic speakers, but also people who don't speak any Slavic language, to facilitate communication between them and speakers of a real Slavic language, because Interslavic is mutually intelligible with most, if not all, Slavic languages. It has about 20,000 speakers. It uses the Latin, Cyrillic, and Glagolithic scripts. The project of creating this language started in 2006 under the name Sloviansky. In 2011, it merged with two other projects and became known as Interslavic. And that is it for this video. Thank you for being patient, because I was away for half a year, but now I'm back to this channel. Subscribe and like this video, and I will see you again in 2 days for the Romance family.